Hollywood actually comes into helping other people. It's the way I lived my life in Hollywood, and the way we do things there, where you have an idea and you quickly put it into action. And that was my MO in Hollywood. There were many times I'd be taking a shower, get an idea for a piece of music, make a few phone calls, go have a few meetings. In about 3 weeks, millions of people are hearing what I thought about in the shower. You know, so I just applied it to doing humanitarian work. For many years, I wanted to help people, didn't know exactly how to do it, because I was learning along the way that you have to be very educated about even wanting to help. Wanting to help is not enough, it's just a start, but you have to know what you're doing, or else you end up helping the wrong people. You end up helping like the people who are hurting other people. And so, anyway, I applied it. I just got the idea one day. I saw something on CNN, and I saw that this one woman you're going to meet named Anjama in one of the most backward places in India, in Andhra Pradesh. It's about 4 hours from Hyderabad. And I saw her on CNN, and I just got this feeling, like, I mean, I heard a voice right here say, pay her debt. Her husband supposedly commits suicide. The farmers are committing suicide en masse. It's a very complicated problem. And so it's just like I got this impulse to go help her, and I'm going, you know, oh, why? I mean, this is a strange thought, you know, but I followed through, and in a few weeks I started calling all my musician friends and celebrity friends and saying, I want to do this, and because they know that I have a feeling for this, they were like, sure, I'll send you $300, I'll send you $500, I'll send you this, that. Short time, I had about $10,000. I tucked it underneath my shirt. And I went to India, and I had this bag filled with bricks of money that looked like I robbed a bank. And actually, the Minister of Parliament, who was on the original CNN segment, his wife came with me. And when I got to Anjama's house, they had guards with machine guns and camouflage. I'm going, whoa, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Because there was like Maoist rebels, I mean, it was really deep, but it was a very amazing experience. So I'm just going to start, and I'll show you an edited version of a documentary that was done. My first trip was in April of 2006. My second trip was in June and July of 2006, and a very famous journalist in Delhi, agricultural journalist, heard about this. I had contacted him, and he contacted New Delhi Television, and they took it upon themselves to do a documentary about it. I didn't want any praise or any publicity about this. I just wanted to do it, you know, heart to heart. But sometimes it does help if you have a unique situation. They felt it was unique, so I did it. And I remember they followed me in Los Angeles, and they followed me in India and filmed, and they went and they interviewed the local people that I was trying to help. I had no idea they felt this way. I remember on my way back to Singapore from India after this trip, they met me at the airport, gave me the DVD. I hadn't even seen it. I came here, stayed with a friend in Tanamera, and put it on, and I buried my head in the sofa and cried and cried and cried because I had no idea that the widows had felt the way they do, and you'll meet them. So here we go, and I'll stop from time to time and share some things. Now I'm going to show you quotes here and there that inspired me along the way. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Sometimes we get too focused on our own selves and our problems.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Hello and welcome to a special report from Los Angeles, California. Over the past 7 years, thousands of farmers in the villages of Andhra Pradesh have committed suicide, leaving their wives and their children to carry the burden of their debt. Some would say that they've been let down by their own government, their own people, and even the media. But their voices are now being heard here in California, where some people have decided that compassion for fellow human beings knows no national borders.
It all
began 4 months ago in March when 50-year-old Joseph Curiale, a music composer in Hollywood, California, saw this woman, Anjuma, on the news. The report described how Anjuma's husband was driven to kill himself, leaving her behind in a village in Andhra Pradesh with a mountain of debts and no way to repay them.
I literally heard a voice inside of my head say straight out, pay her debt. And they said her debt was more than $1,000. And my gut always registers the truth. And my gut said, pay her debt. My intellect then kicked in with all its prejudices and everything, and all its accumulated junk from a whole lifetime of living, and said, what? Well, you pay her debt. I mean, that's a lot of money, plus you have to go to India.
And that's just what he did. He moved his belongings into storage, sublet a smaller apartment in LA, and in April this year, bought a ticket to Andhra Pradesh. There, he met Anjuma and paid off her debt with $1,100. He also paid off the debts of 4 other women from Anjuma's village of Isayapeta. Joseph has been working as a music composer in Hollywood for 26 years, composing and orchestrating music for movies and popular American television programs. By the mid-90s, Joseph began focusing more on concert music than commercial music. The highlight of his career was when in 1995, he conducted the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra in London. Much of the money he spent on paying off Anjuma's debt came from the royalty of one of his compositions called The Gates of Gold, and also a self-help book he recently wrote, inspiring readers to live life in the moment with honesty, integrity, and love. But when he returned home, this Italian-born American found himself battling other emotions.
Absolutely the opposite. I felt worthless. I felt worthless because I know from working and living in Hollywood, the kind of money that gets passed around and wasted, felt like I wish I had more money with me. And so before I left, I asked someone to translate to them that, please don't give up hope. I will go back again to my friends and to try to find more people to raise the money to pay their debts. I sat there, and it's all on film. I would count the money out, whatever. They would tell me how much I owed this moneylender. I would count it out. Dr. Shushi, I'd asked her to just double check me, and she counted it. Then I would hand it to the moneylender. They took a photograph of that, and then he would give me the promissory note. I originally, especially Anjama, because I felt it so close to her especially, I wanted to keep it. But instantly I got the feeling, no, as a symbol, you must let her tear it up. So I handed it to her, and I made a motion to tear it up. And she tore it up, and up to that point her emotions were very blank. But when she tore that up, I saw her starting to cry. She started to break down. In one way it was so sad for me to see, but in another way it was beautiful that now she can release her emotions. She's free, and then she got down on the ground and she did Pad Namaskar to Shuchi, and then she did similar to me. And of course I understand all that because I understand some things about Indian culture.
But is this well-meaning American's response really addressing the problem? Would it not be wiser to use the money to set up a school or provide long-term employment for the family members of the suicide victims? Joseph says he's doing what he can, a little bit at a time.
Because my whole point of coming there was to pay debts in full, because I figured with high interest rates from the money lenders, if I give them $100, it's basically money that's going into a bottomless pit, and they're going to be in the same situation. They're still in bondage.
In a little over a month, Joseph has managed to collect $15,000. That's almost 7 lakh rupees, and he's ready to make his second trip to India. Has Joseph managed to make a difference in the lives of Anjuma and the other widows whose husbands committed suicide? That's coming up after a short break, when Uma Sudhir will travel with Joseph to Anjuma's village, where this time round he hopes to pay off the debts of more families.
Welcome back. You're watching Special Report on how reaching out and touching another person's life can happen across continents, across the seas. We now travel to some villages in Nizamabad district where a foreigner, a stranger from an alien land, has managed to bring in hope into the lives of several young widows and their children desperately in need of help. The children were back from school to have their afternoon meal when we reached Sharda's house in Chukapur village. 2 years ago, Srinivas Gaud had killed himself, unable to face the prospect of repaying debts. The tears of this 15-year-old were perhaps the untold story of what this family has lived through. To Sharda, it seemed that God had sent his own special messenger in their most difficult time. He was Joseph Curiale, who came one day and gave her 40,000 rupees to repay loans.
ఆయన ఒక దేవుడు అనిపిస్తుంది మాకు మేమే ఆయనకు పుట్టినట్టు అనిపిస్తుంది నాకైతే. నన్ను ఆయననే ఏ జన్మలో ఏ రుణమో కానీ నేను ఆయనకు రుణపడి ఉన్న కావచ్చు నాకు ఈ రుణము ఇట్లా ఇచ్చిండ్రు అనిపించింది అన్నట్టు అప్పుడు.
Even now, Sharda rolls beedis all day till 11 in the night to earn 500 rupees a month so that the family can eat and the children can go to school and they can write their own destiny. The big difference now, Sharda says, is that she has hope that tomorrow will be better than yesterday. Our next stop was Ghanpur village. Renuka's husband hanged himself to death in February this year. Daughter Sumilata was in class 11 and son Venkatesh was appearing for his class 10 exams. There were huge debts to pay off. Renuka's severe asthma problem did not allow her to even roll beedis to buy food for her children.
అమెరికా నుంచి వచ్చి మాకు సాయం చేసిపోయింది. దేవుని లెక్కన అనిపించింది సార్, దేవుని లెక్కన. దేవుడనే మొక్కుతాను కదా ఇప్పుడైతే ఆమె ఆయనకు ప్రతిరోజు మేము భావిస్తున్నాం ఆయనను.
బ్యాంకులో వేసి అక్క వెళ్ళిన తర్వాత అయిపోయాక అప్పు వేరే కష్టం చేసుకుంటూ అప్పు తీర్చుతాం అనుకున్నాను.
Our guide in Nizamabad is Sriram, a journalist, social worker and doctor without a degree. He had helped draw up a list of young widows and their families who Joseph could help.
చాలా వండర్ అయిపోయినాం మేము. అది ఓట్లు వేయించుకున్న ఈ నాయకులే విస్మరిస్తున్న ఈ రోజుల్లో ఎక్కడి నుంచో ఆయన పాపం అమెరికాలో సంగీత విద్వాంసుడు, ఆయన ఇన్స్పైర్ అయ్యి ఇలా సహాయం చేయడం చాలా వండర్ అనిపించింది. మేము చాలా అప్రిషియేట్ చేసినాం ఆయన. నిజంగా ఇటువంటి వాళ్ళు ఉంటారా దేశంలో? దేశం నుంచి ఆయన ఇన్స్పైర్ అయ్యి మన దేశానికి వచ్చి ఇట్లా సహాయం చేస్తుంటే మేము చాలా అప్రిషియేట్ చేసినాం. మేము వండర్ అయినాం. నిజంగా ఆయనకు చేతులు జోడించి మొక్కాలనిపించింది మాకు కూడా.
Whose story inspired Joseph to come all the way from America to Isaipeta village in Nizamabad district of Andhra Pradesh. Right now, Anjama is living in a crowded basti in Secunderabad in the house of her younger brother Narsimulu, who himself is a daily wage labourer and has to feed his mother, his pregnant wife, his 5-year-old daughter and himself. What Anjama tells us is that she has not been keeping good health. In fact, she has been advised a hysterectomy but does not have enough money for the operation. In fact, she says she is not even able to roll enough beedis to be able to feed herself and her younger son. I ask her how life has been after Joseph repaid her debts of 50,000 rupees in April this year.
అప్పులు తీర్చిపోయినరు. ఇప్పుడు నాకు తిందామంటే తిండికి లేవు. ఇక నాకు ఆపరేషన్ కావాలని ఇట్లా ఉంది. నాకు ఈ బాధలు ఎట్లయితే ఏం కథ అన్నట్టుగా పెద్ద రంది అయిపోతుంది.
Almost as though in answer to Anjama's prayers, Joseph arrived in India to meet the woman who inspired what seems to have become a driving force in his life to help the helpless. And it was an emotional reunion.
ఎప్పుడూ మొక్కుతూనే ఉన్నాను నేను. ఆ భగవంతుడు సాయం చేసిపోయాడు నాకు అప్పులు తీర్చిపోయాడు. నాకు ఎంతో సంతోషంగా అనిపించింది.
As Joseph moved on to the unfinished business that brought him to India, to distribute the 7 lakh rupees he had collected in the 3 months since he met her. Out of that, 1 lakh rupees goes into a fixed deposit that will ensure Anjamma a monthly income. In Hunsa village of Bodan Mandal, Gangamani is getting ready for a very important visitor who is coming halfway across the globe to meet her. In December 2004, on the same night, both her parents had consumed poison as the baby they called Sweetie slept in the next room. All because the crops failed and loans mounted to over 1 lakh.
కొడుకులు ఉన్నారు కానీ ఇప్పుడు అంటే చూస్తున్నారు ముంగడ చూస్తారు వాళ్ళకి పిల్లలు వాళ్ళకైతే వాళ్ళ సంపదనం వాళ్ళకైతే పాపను చూస్తారు నేను ఉన్నదాకైతే నేను చూడను.
Time next for a makeshift podium. Even as Joseph distributed bank papers that would transfer 1 lakh rupees to the families of 5 young widows, the local organizers of the show were happy to bask in the glory of one man's mission.
ఉంది ఆశ ఉంది అతని ఫోటో దేవుని పటం లాంటిదండి ఇక ఏదో ముంగడ పెట్టుకొని పూజిస్తే ఎందుకంటే గుర్తుగా జీవితంలో ఇలాంటి కళలు అయితే మనం ఎప్పుడు కనలేము.
I can't resist asking Joseph if he's playing God.
Not at all. I look to them as goddesses. I mean, really, when they do Pad Namaskar to me, I mean, I feel, since the first trip, I feel completely unworthy and I feel embarrassed. I mean, I literally feel it's I who should be getting down and touching my forehead to their feet because of their courage and their grace in some of the worst possible situations.
Joseph says he will be back soon to touch and connect many more lives and people here with many more people back home.
I'm going to take it a day at a time. I'm going to take it one person at a time. Because if I think of the big picture, it's almost too overwhelming, and and I think that happens to a lot of people. They won't do anything. But I don't want to do that. I felt like even if I only helped one person and made a difference in their life, then it was all worth it. But I know that I'm capable of doing much, much more.
Little drops make an ocean. Little ripples make a wave. For most of us, life begins and ends and revolves around what happens to us. A few are able to look beyond the whirlpool of their life to feel, think, and proactively convert thought into action. Do write in to let us know what you thought of this episode of Special Report to feedback@ndtv.com or feedback@ndtv.in or SMS us at 6388. Till the next week then, with camera person Nazir Sheikh, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
Thanks. Again, I feel very unworthy. I kind of feel this is something that anybody can do. As I feel with music, maybe some of the students that I work most closely with, I feel like, well, if I can do it, anybody should be able to do it. I don't have that kind of ego that I think that I'm better. But I think there's one thing is, again, my MO from Hollywood is when I get a thought, I can put it into action immediately. The problem is being outside of Hollywood, you start working in systems that are bogged down in a lot of administration work and red tape that you have the thought and it dies very quickly. But I still don't quit. But this is how it happened, so that, and everybody I worked with in Hollywood was pretty much the same way. I want to do this. Great. Here, we'll send you some money. Yeah, we trust you, we'll do this. And this went on for 8 years. It was really hard. I mean, it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. It was really difficult too. I mean, I became very close to all these people. And even the first time, I remember I'm standing in Anjama's, in the field, in the farm, and I'm looking out there, I'm going, I've been here before. I felt like I was there before. Nobody felt like it was strangers. I mean, I was paying gangsters. I mean, the moneylenders are gangsters, a lot of them. I mean, the interest rate is 450%. And if they don't pay it, they rape them, and then they pass the debt on to their children. I mean, it's almost like you can't get out of it. I mean, it's a very corrupt system. So I just felt really compelled, especially for some of the younger widows, to get them out of debt as quickly as possible, because we were all worried that they were going to be taken advantage of. And I find out later, after some years, that they were taken advantage of. So it's really, I had a heavy heart a lot. I used to come back to LA and just, get in the car and cry all the way up the freeway. And like, how am I going to do this? How can I continue to do this? And I did. Oh, so I love this Umu Sudir, who you just saw. She's one of my heroes in this life. I think she's absolute brilliant. And she wrote this: little drops make an ocean, little ripples make a wave. For most of us, life begins and ends and revolves around what happens to us. A few are able to look beyond the whirlpool of their life to feel, think, and proactively convert thought into action. And I think creative people, I mean, we're all creative, but I mean, the people who, artistic people, are very in touch with this. And it's important to be spontaneous. And when you get that feeling, is to just follow through with it, whether you're doing music, whether you're doing this, whether you're doing art, whether you're doing dance, or whatever it is to not be afraid to follow something, especially when the greater good can benefit. So on this trip, when I was an undergraduate in university, I mean, who at 21 years old, that's a music student, thinks of this? I had this insight that somewhere in the world I had an orphan daughter. And for 30 years, I looked for her all over the world. I've been to 40 countries, so I kept looking for her. And then when I asked the Minister of Parliament's wife, can you take me to a girls' orphanage? And on that trip, she did. And I walked in, and I saw one girl. She looked at me. I saw her eyes. I go, that's her. And I raised her, and I raised her sister, and I raised 2 others. And you're going to meet them right now. I put together just a little 7-minute video montage of me and my girls. And they were basically orphans. And so...
ఉంటున్నావు మంచిగానే
డాడీ కమింగ్
ఓకే Hello.
I love you, Daddy.
I love you.
Fatima. Fatima. Oh, my daddy. 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 Oh, my daddy.
A new song. Oh, my daddy. Oh, my daddy.
Daddy. Son. Daddy. Daddy. Oh, my daddy. 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 Oh, my daddy. My daddy. My daddy.
Good song.
Yeah?
Let me see. Let me see. Let me see.
చాలా ఇష్టం.
You like those steps? Thank you.
No, my arm, Daddy. Daddy, yes.
Okay.
You come. Daddy. You, Daddy.
Go.
You, Daddy. Yes.
Wow. Great. Yes. Okay.
No, Daddy. Yes, no.
Okay, go ahead. We're going. We even have Fatima with her new phone. Good, Fatima. Very good. Very good. Yeah. Very good girl.
You good?
You're a very good girl.
Next time, Mother would come. You good? Okay?
Okay.
Huh?
No good?
You are very good in Takutu.
Really? Oh, no. Okay. Now we can change. You can change.
Change?
Yep.
Change. Daddy,
Come here. Thank you. Look at this. Come here. Come here. Okay, this is what we've got. Yes, John. Let's go, John. Girl, you're going crazy. You girls have too much sugar, I think.
నాకు భయం వేస్తుంది ఇలా చూస్తుంది.
What do you want? Shaguka? Which one?
You like that?
You chose. You pick. That's nice. So good?
No nice.
Oh,
Wait, no. You like it?
that's nice. You don't like the blue color? Movie. Bye.
Bye, auntie.
Hey, Shagopta.
You're English.
Hey, Sha.
Let me see you. Hey, you okay? Oh, enough.
तू शोएब तू हटे छूट जाएगा मेरे हाथ से.
My first Ramadan. Family, all the families together. Thumbs up. Oh.
Thank
Well, my little girl Fatima, the one that sang the "Oh Daddy, Oh My Daddy" song that she spontaneously created, she was born. Her foot was backward, one of her feet. And again, this is one of those things I was determined when I saw that at the orphanage at that time before I was taking care of them personally. They said, "Is there anything you can do?" So I immediately started having a network of wealthy Indian friends in the United States, and I just started calling everywhere. Anybody know this one? And then somebody's father was a doctor in that area, and then they made a call, and somebody else made a call. And really, within a couple of months, I brought her for like major surgery, and the doctor turned her foot around, and she's not crippled anymore. And so when you saw her, she had a cast. And I used to fly back every 8 weeks to India from the US to personally take her to have the cast replaced, because they had to like replace it. I mean, they had to move it little by little because all the skin was stretched in the wrong direction. And I didn't trust anybody to do it. So I mean, a tough commute every 8 weeks to India. And you know, she in the end was fine. So again, another inspiring quote, you know, I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. I will not refuse to do the something I can do. And that was Helen Keller, of course, who was deaf and blind. This is a photo I took in Anjama's village of one of the older ladies in that area. I asked her if I could take a photo of her hands, and this is her face. She's not that old, believe it or not. And this is her in front of her little hut. And overcoming poverty is not a task of charity. It is an act of justice. Like slavery and apartheid, poverty is not natural. It's man-made and can be overcome and eradicated by the actions of human beings. Sometimes it falls on a generation to be great. You can be that great generation. Let your greatness blossom. Nelson Mandela. This was the land in that area where things were just not growing, very parched. The reasons places are poor also make it difficult to make them less poor, and I experienced it, is that when you have a corrupted system to begin with, it's really hard, even with the best of intentions, to make anything change. I had my own kind of idea that it's like me trying to help these children was like taking good seed and planting them in bad soil. I mean, it's the chances of them, you know, blossoming are remote unless you plant them in better soil. This is my little one, Shagufta, that you saw. This is when before I took her, and you know, her dress was tattered. The sleeves were falling apart. Sometimes I really cry when I see this photograph because I remember that day I saw her. You cannot affect change unless you attack the very things that are keeping you down. Johnny Rotten and the Sex Pistols, you know, I mean, more wisdom that's very fitting. This is a picture of us all together in the Times of India. I know an owner, a 100 millionaire, and an Indian in Boston, and he paid for me to take them. You saw them on the plane. They don't even have identification. They don't even have birth certificates. As far as India is concerned, these kids don't even exist. They're from backward caste. I mean, they're from the lowest of the low. And they were treated with respect because they were with me. You know, so this was one of the photos, a big story in the Times of India about them. And a rich person is not one who has the most, but one who needs the least. And I learned that from doing this. I mean, I walked away from Hollywood. This was the first thing I did when I walked away from Hollywood was to go back and get my PhD and simultaneously commute back and forth to India. Certain times I actually gave up the PhD to spend a big stretch of time with them because they were always sick with typhoid and, I mean, simple things like clean water, you know, so I had to take care of them. This is with some of the widows who were farmers that really toiled in this blazing heat. So I used to love to be with them. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. A lot of people see things, they don't say anything, they don't do anything. And actually, I think maybe the Nazi hunter, Elie Wiesel, said that when you see injustices, you don't do anything about it, you're part of it. You're complicit in some way by keeping silent. This is like probably the second time I was at the orphanage, and I didn't want to leave. I mean, there were like 75 girls that were just like 75 little goddesses. It was just so amazing. And lastly, the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. And I'm a real believer in that. So I want to thank you for coming, and I wanted to share this because, you can do this. I'm not that special, okay? It's just I've been trained most of my life to put my thoughts into action immediately and to surround myself with the kind of people who help me to make that happen. And of course, I'm one of the people who helps others to, in the music business, they have an idea, so I have to help them do that. But it's great because when that becomes your normal way of life, you can apply it to something like this and help change the world in some kind of way. I mean, not everybody. It's not for everybody to maybe go into the trenches with these people. But for years that was my dream. I said I don't want to just send a check. I want to hold their hand. I want to be with them when they cry. I want to give them a hug. I want to laugh with them. I want to do that. And boy, I got this experience in a huge way. And it's hard to even believe sometimes. It all seems like a dream, that for me to be in the backwoods of Indians with Indian friends of mine, like famous dancers and directors and stuff. They say they would absolutely never set foot where I go. And you would not see another white person for 200 miles. And I mean, to me, everybody's the same, so I don't feel out of place anywhere. Everybody kind of feels like family for me. But it was hard for me because then some, politician would say to me, these people have never seen a white person in person. Because I'm going, why are they staring? That kind of thing. But it was amazing to go someplace. A lot of times I'd buy like 50 or 100 saris and just have them passed out to all the poor women in the villages and in the fields. And some of the volunteers who were helping me, the local volunteers said, they would go out before me to check things out, and they'd stop to the side of the road to make a call, and an old man, farmer, would come to the road and say, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm working with Joseph. And he said, oh, I know him. He gave my wife a sari. I mean, to be in the most remote part of India, and yet kind of everybody knows you. For the first, I don't know how many years, maybe the first 3 or 4 years, nobody trusted me because they're not used to this model. I mean, you're coming here and unloading tens of thousands of dollars to help us, and you don't want anything in return? I don't believe it. So for the first 4 years, they didn't trust me. I mean, I had death threats. Was held hostage twice, kidnapped. This is for trying to do good. There's that saying, no good deed goes unpunished. Well, I've experienced it. But, you get this kind of strength. When I was in LA, when thinking about it, I could feel the fear. And my doctor said, don't go back. He goes, you have post-traumatic stress disorder after year after year after this. And I'm going, I can't. I go, you have children, you're not going to abandon your children. These are like my children. So I'd go back, and then when I had to face all the criminals and the criminal politicians and everything, I was like, come on, hit me with your best shot. I go, do you know where I come from? I go, the people who are behind me. I go, you do anything to me. I go, Hollywood's going to be all over you. Your town is going to be dirt. I mean, real dirt. And so I found in India, I actually, after a while, I felt, I didn't feel any physical danger. When in India, what they like to do is they like to destroy your name. So one of the villages that you saw I went to this day, I cannot go back because the low-level politicians spread a rumor that I'm stealing the children, I'm stealing their kidneys, and I'm stealing their eyes, and I'm selling them. So, I mean, I could go on. After this many years, I have so many stories. But I did want to leave some room for question and answers, and I really hope you might, have something you want to share or want to know from me, because I know a lot of creative people really have the heart. They want to do something to help, but it's hard to know where to start and how to do it. So, are there any questions? Come on, I see one. Yay. No. Well, first of all, I'm well trusted among my peers. But I said I saw this this news show on CNN about this about the farmer suicides, and I would send them. I immediately started. I mean, I'm really proactive in everything I do. That anything I have a passion for, I don't need anybody to push me. And I started getting all this information, and I would do something simple because in Hollywood everybody's busy, so you can't like load them down with stuff. And I sent to him. I says, I'm going to go and I'm going to pay their debts. And I said, if you have it in your heart to help, and if not, no problem. I just want to let you know what I'm going to do. And they were, boom, right away. And I got that thought. I woke up with that thought. These are like these insights that happen. Usually, intellectually, we override them. But as artists, our gut tells us, again, what to do, what to play, how to move, But then when our intellect kicks in, it usually ruins everything. You can't do that. How are you going to do this? I'm going, but I've learned to just override this a lot and just go from here. There has to be some kind of a balance, but usually I'm leaning towards this. So it just started coming in. Like I said, in a few weeks, I had almost $10,000. It was amazing, And then the next trip, I remember driving back on the freeway after meeting all these women for the first time and just crying in the car, just going, how am I going to raise more money? I just asked all my friends for help. And 8 weeks, I raised more. I raised $16,000 and went back and started trust funds for the widows and their children and all kinds of stuff. And then I met the orphan girls, and then that was a whole other thing. So I think it's your credibility. You have enough credibility, people, they know you're good. You're good for it. Anything else? Anybody? Yes. Kelvin. Oh, thanks. Not at all, and that's what I had to fight against. They see a white guy in the backwoods of India, they're going, he's a Christian, he's going to try to convert us. So that was a really tough thing because I'm saying, I am not here in the name of religion. I'm here in the name of being one human being to another. Because actually in that area, no offense to anybody, I grew up a Catholic, okay? The Catholic Church in that area, there was a huge scandal like about 5 years before I came where they were actually selling children, to foreign countries, for other people to adopt them when they actually had parents. You know what I mean? And they were making a fortune, including the priests. So it was a big scandal in Andhra Pradesh. So that's a really great question because I had to fight that for years. And the nice thing, I said like I had my own spiritual Noah's Ark because I had 2 girls, 2 sisters were Muslim, 2 sisters were Hindu, 2 sisters were Catholic, believe it or not. Catholicism is only like 1.5% of the whole billion plus of India. I didn't look for them. I go for the heart in which people trusted me. I was able to take Fatima for the operation because her guardian trusted me. They saw that I was really never giving up and always coming back to help and going through a lot of hardships and being attacked all the time. You wouldn't believe how many times I've been attacked in India and ridiculed and criticized. Go back, don't be like the British. We don't need you. And when this showed all over the world, oh man, they slammed me. The Indians slammed me the most. And the people who helped me the least. But there was a handful of Indians that I worked with, like Uma Sudhir and the journalist Devinder Sharma. These people are at the top of my list of the best people I've ever met in my life. The doctor who did Fatima's surgery was so gentle with her when so many of the people are quite harsh and brutal, especially these are lower caste kids. Boy, he was so gentle with her, and he didn't ask me for any money. He did the surgery for free. I still paid him. But paying him what he wanted was $100. It was unbelievable. And every time I came back, he never took any money from me. And I had to rescue her. Because they were beating the children. I had them in the orphanage, and they were beating them. And they were afraid to tell me anything. And when I came to see him one time, they wouldn't talk to me. And that film crew came with me again, and we busted the orphanage on the air, on TV. And right after that, then the death threats started coming. And then all the volunteers ran, and I had to go to the city hall, to their mayor in Hyderabad, and I had to face all these criminals alone. No, I had to keep changing where I was staying because I was worried that they're gonna try to do me in some way. And it was so harsh, man. It was hard. But then I finally turned the corner, And then it was like suddenly everybody that knew about this, in this remote area, everybody's, hey, where's the American? Where's our American? You know, they're like proud that I'm, you know, part of their community. And I could walk anywhere with the girls, you know, and they saw me. I'm a single guy with, at the time, with, you know, 4, you know, beautiful little girls, you know, and they see us around town all the time, you know, going shopping and buying food and everything like that. But, you know, I remember one dirty thing that happened. There were 2 hotels in that area, and one hotel was angry at the hotel that I was staying at because they had blown the whistle to the police that prostitution was going on in that hotel. So they call the police when I'm there and say, hey, there's an American in there, and he's trafficking children. So they set to come to my room with a SWAT team. I'm minding my own business, you know what I mean? But the manager of the hotel knew me. I built these relationships. Everything in life is about relationship, and he refused. He said, you're not going there. You're not going to bother him. And so we lived in the hotel. I mean, their villages were nearby too, so they can come and go. But you know, that kind of thing. And I put them in private schools and everything. So, any other questions? Really? Yes. I'm sorry? Yeah, because it was impossible. Again, here's this system that is so broken, and actually it's quite racist, if I may say so. I mean, they rather that they stay orphans than a foreigner adopt them. And so I tried and tried and tried year after year after year to legally adopt them, and they wouldn't let it. I mean, originally I wanted to come back to Singapore for a lot of reasons, but it was close by, and I said, oh, I'd love to adopt them and then bring them to come to live with me here, put them in school, have a nice education, a really nice, cool life in Singapore, and it's an uphill battle all the time. So, Tim, did you have a question? Well, I'm not sure. And that's the sad part of the whole story. I mean, I think of them every day, but there came a point, they grow up, it's like when they're with me, they're different. As soon as I have to put them back in their village, they have no choice but to revert back to the same set of rules, which is lying, cheating, and everything. And if they don't, they get beaten a lot. And so they would lie to me all the time. My oldest girl, who I was closest to, Tokyo International School, because I have a great relationship. All these schools in Japan helped me raise a lot of money. Tokyo International School, Yokohama International School, Sacred Heart International School, Christian Academy, all these places. And so it's like $20,000 a year to go to Tokyo International School. I know the owner, he's an American. He said, you know, if you can get them here, we'll send them to school for free. So I was working on it. I tried probably 4 years to get a passport. It was so impossible because they have no birth certificates. And their parents are dead. And the bureaucracy, and when they see me, the price just goes up. It costs $20 to get a passport. I spent over $1,000. Everybody going, oh, sir, no, I'll help you get your passport. You know, blah, blah, for your child, blah, 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 nothing. I mean, I went to Hyderabad to bring my girl. She had to go in to apply for the passport. And this is how crazy it was. The police were beating people with bamboo poles when they opened the door because it was just this mad rush, like a riot. I mean, this is normal how you behave when you go to a government office in Hyderabad. And it was harsh, you know, to see this girl getting almost trampled. You know, so I never got them the passports. I could never bring them. And then finally I had to draw the line. I may not be over with it yet, but I had to pull back and saying, I told them, I said, if you lie to me, I cannot help you. You have to be honest. You know, so I had them in private school, and this is while I was going back to get my PhD, so I didn't have a lot of money, and by that time people weren't helping me anymore. I was bearing the whole responsibility, financial responsibility. It was really tough. From living in Hollywood, you know, always having great cars, the whole thing, to when I was doing my PhD, I could only afford to buy 1 meal a day, and I had to stretch that meal for three meals, and I didn't have a car because of that. I walked in 40 below weather every day in the winter in Minneapolis. I mean, it's a brutal weather, but I never failed to take care of them and pay for their school and their food. And at the same time, I'm already in the Philippines, and I've already built a house for somebody, and I'm you know, supporting another family. You know, so I couldn't. You know, it was a sacrifice for me, but it would have turned their lives upside down if I stopped helping them. But when I kept calling them and saying, are they in school? How's school? I'd call them almost every day. How's school? Daddy, everything's good. Good, Daddy, good, Daddy. And then the principal, who I was very close with, would call me and saying, why aren't they not in school for the past month? I said, what? And, and that money meant a lot to me because, again, I couldn't hardly have enough money to eat myself, and I was always paying their bill for their school, and they weren't going because it's crazy. It's crazy. It's really hard. It's really difficult. I think about them every day, and I miss them a lot. And I'm still figuring out what to do because now I'm very close to them. I mean, near proximity, but I had to pull back. My oldest girl I was close to, she decided instead of going to Tokyo International School, she wanted to run away with a 7th grade dropout. What am I going to do? That's one thing I learned, and I learned from my Indian friends. They say sometimes with these people, if you give them gold, they will destroy it. So you have the government working against you, you have the whole social system working against you, and then the people that you're trying to help are working against you. They sabotage everything. This is my experience for almost 10 years. So it's really tough. People have to pull their own weight, and the story's not over. It's not over yet, but there's just been a little reprieve here. So I don't know what time it is, Tim. I don't want to keep everybody. Oh, okay. Well, thanks for being here. I mean, I really wanted to share this with you. If you ever have any questions about you're interested in doing things in your own way, please contact me because I'll share very openly and honestly. I won't discourage you from doing it because it was a beautiful experience. You just got to know what you're doing, or else you can get really eaten alive in trying to help people. You'd think it'd be so easy to help people. It's not. It's very difficult. So good intentions are not enough. The phrase, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So I felt that way quite often, but I don't let it stop me though. I keep going. So thanks a lot, and yeah, thanks.
Yeah, Dr. Joe Curiale.